So, Gary, thank you so much. I'm Wendy Zenker, the Executive Director of Arlington Neighborhood Village. And in 2 seconds, I'm going to turn it over to Maureen Markham, our president. But I want to welcome everybody. This is a great opportunity for us to give you a brief update on where we are. And also, we hope to get feedback from you, either through or at the end of the presentation. I think we've got some new things to show you with respect to the village. So with that, let me turn to Maureen.
Okay, well, I will also want to welcome everybody to here today. And I'm Maureen Markham. I'm serving as the president of the board this year. And I guess I have the honor of having been on the very first board. It's hard to believe 8 years have gone by. And I believe I'm the only member of the board who's still serving in that capacity from that early time. And so what you'll see today is kind of a picture of where we are now, and we've come so far. So it's really exciting. And I do want to I'll tell you just a little story. And some of you know that I used to work in my career in affordable housing work. And in that capacity, I helped a lot of communities do like market studies because they all thought they wanted their like senior housing development, subsidized senior housing development. And if you went in and you asked people in the communities, do you need senior housing in your community? They would all say yes. But if you ask them, if you had senior housing here, would you live in it? They all said no. And that's because they all want to stay in their own homes as long as possible. So I think that the village movement is really a concept that has come into its own and really kind of serves the need that we have here now. So when I saw that Arlington was going to have a village, I got really excited about it. And I thought, oh, that's something that I would really like to work with. And so we've grown since the beginning. We've added services, we've added members. And so last fall, I guess we thought, it's time that we take a pause and we kind of look at where we've been and we decide, what we want to be when we grow up. So where are we going from here? And that was the idea behind doing a strategic plan and kind of really trying to define who we are and what we want to be. And so Wendy has a wonderful presentation for you to kind of show you all the things that we're doing now and where we're at. And then a little bit of a looking for the future. So I hope you find it interesting, and we'll be happy to try and have a little discussion and answer questions as we go along. Okay, so take it away, Wendy.
Thank you so much. Let me just get, as I think everybody's aware of now, it always takes that 10 seconds to get things set up on the screen. So there we go. First of all, I briefly took a look at who's on the call today. We've got 35 people on the call, and I look and I see names and I'm going, these are people I haven't talked to in so long. So I'm thrilled that everyone's here. In addition to Maureen, we have Christine Dolan, who's a current board member, and Charlie King, who's a previous board member, also joining us today. So hello to both of you guys. Very briefly, because I know some people have seen this before, I just want to let you know what we're going to do today. Quick refresher for anyone who's new on the call, a little bit of a discussion of where we are now, where we're going, and then asking for questions. I'm showing you one of the photos we have here, and I hope it's familiar to you. Of course, we used it at Christmas time, and a lot of these photos were from our holiday party in December. And it just makes me happy to look at these pictures of our members and volunteers who we're taking care of, and our infamous bocce team up there in the left corner. So just a note that pictures tell a story. And this is one of the photo collages I have that I really love. It's blown up in my office. We have a poster-sized version of this at our physical offices. So a reminder, what are we? Who are we? We're volunteers that are providing that extra help. And I think extra help is an interesting way to think about it, that an older adult needs to stay safely and independently in their own home. while staying connected to our community. Again, the history, many of you know, villages were started 20 years ago in Beacon Hill. Today, we've got more than 300 villages across the nation. If people want to know there's a village somewhere else in the country that is available for family or friends that need it, there's a website, the Village to Village Network, that can answer that question. And here in the DC area, we've got about 60 to 75 villages in operation, and that's either DC or Maryland or Virginia suburbs. And I say 60 to 75 because a good portion of those villages are what they call in formation. And we provide, Arlington provides some mentoring to some of those villages that are starting up. Maureen just said it. Why do we want villages? People want to stay in their home. They want to be safe, independent, and still connected. And for children of older adults, everyone wants to have peace of mind, that you know someone is there that can take care of your loved one. But the first line tells the story. Aging isn't easy. I should have said aging ain't easy. It comes with its own set of challenges. And those challenges can either be social challenges, we feel isolated, or they could be physical challenges where we've lost some of our mobility. But the bottom line is that people need some extra help, and they welcome that extra help. And it's big functions and little functions. It's getting a ride, it's changing a light bulb, but it's also being a friend and making a connection and checking in, on a weekly basis for 2 years and saying there's somebody here who cares about you. We also know that trying to hire assistants to do those things I just described can be costly, and putting it all together in some kind of puzzle can often be overwhelming. And again, the bottom line, we know low-income seniors feel all of these challenges much more seriously. So again, for those of you on the phone call, we know longtime members and volunteers, we're taking people to medical appointments, the grocery store, the bank, the post office. We're doing household chores, technology assistance, friendly visits, walking buddies, and sometimes we're doing yard work. Soon I'll be able to update all these photos so it won't just be people wearing masks that we're talking about. But if we take a slightly deeper dive, we can all sit there and look back and say, before the pandemic, this is where we were. With the pandemic, we had a reduction in workload, as you would expect, and we had a change in the work that we did. Less transportation, more errands. But now that we look at the first quarter of this year, the bottom line is, we're back. We're doing an amount of, the number of requests that we're fulfilling is similar to the number that we had pre-pandemic, and is on line to be, even bigger. This will be our biggest year yet in terms of the services that we're providing. And again, you can look at, what they are specifically. So pre-pandemic, transportation was 75% of what we do. It's not quite 75% anymore. It's about 50%. But again, it's coming back every single day. The number of ride requests we get are going up. And those ride requests are, for the most part, going to medical appointments and doing grocery shopping. We also are doing errands. And errands are defined by us as, when a volunteer can do something for the member doesn't come along. So a lot of those errands, again, are doing grocery shopping for somebody or doing food deliveries from the Arlington Food Assistance Center. And I think, again, we'll talk about that in a minute, but we're doing a lot more of that than we've ever done before. Home chores and maintenance, tech support, walking buddies, a little bit of yard work. Yard work picks up a little bit in the spring, so I'm sure that number will go up. But you can see that overall, 725 requests were fulfilled in the first quarter of this year. If we multiply that by 4, that's going to be about 3,000 events by the end of the year. In addition to providing services, we also create community. One, there's always a special bond between members and volunteers. We've got different programs that we're running, whether it's sail, page turners, tai chi, bocce. You've heard all of those listed at the beginning of our conversation. We've got the men's lunch, we've got the ladies' lunch, and we have weekly coffee and conversations. When people hear that we've been doing weekly coffee and conversations for as many years as we have, they are amazed that we've been able to maintain that momentum. Yeah, I don't even say maintain the momentum, maintain that pace, and find interesting speakers week after week after week. And that's much thanks to our coffee and conversation team that's on this call. And then, we've been able to return to Thanksgiving and holiday celebrations. And John Thomas, created the concept of pop-up picnics about a year ago. So we've been able to add them to our program, along with the lunches and dine-arounds. Again, you can see our ladies' lunch at the Jerusalem Mess restaurant just a couple of weeks ago. And up here, some of our volunteers with one of our members celebrating their birthday at Nick's Carriage House. Our demographics. So demographics, for the most part, the percentages are generally staying the same. The absolute number, on the other hand, goes up. We currently have almost 300 full-time members. And when I say currently, that's a number that I pulled at the end of March. We have what we call those temporary members. And those are the members that we're not charging a membership fee. They're at risk, they're in need, they came to us through COVID, and we're helping them mostly with food delivery from AFAC. We're looking though to convert those temporary members into full members. And that is happening by the fact that you see the number is 46 temporary members now versus 80. Conversions are being made. At the same time, if we had a temporary member on our rolls that wasn't really using services, they hadn't asked for anything, we're starting to take them off our list. We don't want to overinflate the number of people that we're helping. We want it to be an accurate, realistic picture that we share with people.
Wendy, do those full memberships include associate members?
Yes, they do. It's an interesting, thanks, Gary. It's interesting you see the term. I'll correct going forward. I was making the point there that we have 293 members who pay a membership fee of some sort, whether it's associates who are supporting us or full members getting services. When we say that our members are aged 58 to 100, that's a seesaw. The number of people 58, very small. The number of people in their 80s and older, that's predominantly where our membership is at this point. Predominantly female. You see that number there, 43% are over 80, 87% are over 70. So you can see, where our membership skews. 68% of our members are living alone. And all of these statistics coming together, most of our members who live alone, the vast majority are female. I said that, we've done good work to really welcome people with lower incomes into ANV. So we're at the point now that 31% of our, and this is, Gary, a correct use of the word full, 31% of our folks who are paying us a membership fee are receiving a discount due to their income. That's a pretty significant number. It's an increase. I mean, the absolute number, I think, is somewhere around 72 people right now. And we had been at a point, as we look back at the statistics for ANV, we started with, from the very beginning, we had a financial aid fund that was seeded with a very generous contribution from one of our founders. So we've always had the financial aid fund. The early numbers that I've seen are either 5 or 8 people, and then you see it went to 11, and it went to 27, and it went to 35, and then 2 years through the pandemic, you can see that we've got about 72 people who are indeed receiving help with their membership fee. And I'll go into that again a little bit more. I'd also say that this reflects what we heard when we had our all hands meeting back in 2019, and people said they wanted to help everybody throughout Arlington. And we took that to heart and we moved on it. And that's why our membership has grown. It's why our membership has grown, especially helping people with lower incomes. And then when we look at the demographics of our membership, about 10% of them represent diverse backgrounds. And I note that that's incomplete data because some of those temporary people that we're helping we don't have demographic information for them because we actually never did a full intake with them. So that number is, is going to be higher than 10%, but 10% is what it is right now for the people for whom we have data. Again, when we talk about how do we get the job done, you guys know this. We've got drivers and active volunteers. We've got about 213 active volunteers. When I use that phrase, those are people who did something for us in 2021. The number of volunteers that we have on our rolls, we have names and email addresses. They've been vetted for a much higher number, but oftentimes they didn't raise their hand and volunteer. So when I'm looking at how many active volunteers do we have who did something, we had 213 who did something in 2021. Of those 213, 100 or so are drivers. And we're always looking for drivers. That'll be part of our, what do we need going forward? We need more volunteers who are willing to drive. When we look at how many services did we fulfill, we completed 2,680. And remember, for anything that's a ride, that's a round trip ride, not a one-way ride. We drove 30,000 miles. And when we talk about driving 30,000 miles, it means that our volunteers paid for their gas themselves. They didn't get any help with that. Volunteers donated 8,600 hours. We fulfilled 97% of the services that were requested. That number used to be higher. It used to be 98 or 99. So that's where, we really have to pay more attention to getting, and I'm going to say it again, more drivers. In addition, volunteers are providing behind the scenes management expertise. While I was talking,
I had a question.
I did. I saw that. I saw Gary. A question came in that asked about, the diverse background and what does that represent? How do we know? What are we counting there? And what we're counting there is basically the same information that people provide all the time when they're looking at census forms. And in this instance, we're capturing the kind of information that the county asked for because we have a grant from the county and we need to report this. So we're looking at people who are white. White doesn't count as diverse. We're looking at people who are Black, Asian. There are several people who describe themselves as multi racial background, and we're looking at people who tell us that they're Hispanic. So we look at those statistics, 10% of our members represent diverse backgrounds. We're not looking at people, for example, where English is not their first language. And we've got many members now who are Russian or Turkish or have different ethnic backgrounds. But in the census world, they count as white. But we've got a lot of people where their English is adequate, but not spectacular. And so we, with patience, are able to communicate with everybody. So this is what our, when we say, how do we get the job done? These are our volunteers. And, when we look at, what our staff looks like, we've got an executive director, myself, Jean, our member services manager. We have a new volunteer coordinator. Her name is Cindy Salavantis. She just started about, I'd say 4 weeks ago. We have a member services specialist, again, a part-time job. This is somebody who's helping Jean, talking to new prospective members, having those phone conversations with them, explaining to them what ANV is, and moving them along the pipeline to joining as full members. And we have a care manager who's on call that we bring on board when we have a member who has a particular health challenge or a living situation where we need some extra expertise that can help manage that person's crisis. In terms of how we get it all done, we've got a three-pronged sustainability strategy. We do charge membership, we seek grants, and we ask for donations. We have had good luck with grants over these last couple of years. We have a very nice grant from the county that supports our financial aid fund. We've gotten regular support from the Washington Forest Foundation and the Scheidel Foundation. We've gotten support from the Arlington Women's Civic Alliance. We've gotten support from the Cloudbreak Foundation. And we have a federal grant, if you can believe it, it's sub-granted to us for Community Care Corps. And we got $30,000 in that grant to help us do what we're doing to expand our reach into senior housing. So grants is becoming a more vibrant part of our overall sustainability strategy, as are donations. And again, donations, we've watched them go up year by year, and especially during the pandemic, we've seen individual donations go up. And that's because people really responded to our efforts to reach out more broadly across Arlington to help people with lower incomes, and in some instances to waive our membership fee. So people always get to this point and it's like, well, if you're all volunteers, you know, why do you need all this money? And it's because we, in addition to having volunteers, have expenses. Some of those expenses are covered in that first bullet. Our payroll costs, some contracting costs for all of these folks that are part-time. We've got an office. We've doubled our space at the office at the Church of the Covenant. For those people who knew our office, we're now on 2 floors on top of each other, as opposed to just 1 floor. We've got internet and computer costs. We've got costs for vetting and doing background checks on our volunteers. We have insurance costs. We have some event costs for recognition events that we do and some of our party expenses. So overall, when you look at our budget is about, I think this year, about $240,000. And again, that's a number that goes up year to year. So for the time being, we're able to fund all of that through this sustainability strategy. But in addition, you know, it's not like these people get it all done. It's volunteers who are getting it all done. We've got volunteers on 8 different committees, from events to finance to fundraising, volunteer management, member intake, communications and marketing. All of those volunteers working on those committees, it totals about 50 to 70 people, 70 pre-pandemic, probably 50 right now, but all those volunteers are creating the programs that we offer. They're creating Coffee and Conversation. They're creating our upcoming health fair. They're creating our volunteer recognition event. They're helping to balance our books. I think some of you probably can recognize the back of Pete's head and the sideways look at Larry Padberg there. So volunteers are a huge part of getting our job done. Ron French built some shelves in our office. Volunteers are managing our dine-arounds, our lunches, our pop-up picnics. Volunteers are managing the new games program that we're doing at Boston Quarter every other week. You know, all of these things happen because there's a volunteer raises their hand and says, I'm going to manage it. I'm going to make sure it happens. And then on top of that, we've got volunteers who come into the office 5 days a week, answering the phone, taking member requests, sending out open requests, linking up members and volunteers to fulfill service requests. Those office volunteers, again, an amazing cohort of people who have come in, you know, continuously, almost for as long as we've been in operation, but certainly coming into the office during some of the more challenging times of the pandemic.
Wendy, we've got a question here. For potential members whose needs are greater than ANV can provide for, can ANV provide referrals or other guidance?
Yes, absolutely. And you know, we're getting smarter on that all the time. There are times that, you know, it's what we call them, it's not a good fit. We'd love to be able to take everybody who knocks on our door, but we know that for the most part, we are volunteers that are responding to older adult needs. And if we don't feel that it's something that our volunteers can do and do smoothly, then sometimes we have to say it's not a good fit for us at this time. And in those instances, we do have, you know, other resources that we can try to direct people to. Again, we know it's challenging, and in no way are we suggesting that it's easy. If there's somebody that we can't help and we say, you know, where can you go? It is a challenge, and it takes lots of phone calls and lots of education. But there are times that we're not the right solution for someone. Is there another question, Gary? I know that there are 2 in the chat. Oh, Gary said he might have to walk away at some point to get.
No, no,
Oh.
the other one was just when you were listing the people performing the kind of management services, they just wanted to call out that we also have a grant writer.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I should. Thank you so much. Noelle Durman has been with us again for many, many years. And Noelle writes phenomenal grants. And we wouldn't have the success we had in grants if we weren't able to sit there and have Noelle as part of our team. It's always a challenge when you start listing things, you're not going to list everything. So sometimes people say, don't say anything, because then you don't have to have the problem of, oops, I forgot. In this instance, there's an oops, I forgot about Noelle, and there are more people that I'm sure that oops, I forgot. How did we respond to the pandemic? And again, I'm preaching to the choir here. I think you guys know this. We have been able to strengthen our partnerships with other senior serving organizations to expand our reach. And again, this is a direction we got from the 2019 All Hands. This is a direction we got from our board back in 2019. Don't operate as a silo. Become part of everything that's going on in the county. And that's absolutely happened. We have a strong relationship with Culpeper Garden, a very strong relationship with the Arlington Partnership for Affordable Housing. We have a great relationship with our county partners at the Department of Human Services and the Area Agency on Aging. There are more than I can list, but with the library, with the Department of Parks and Recreation, all of these partnerships have absolutely been strengthened during the pandemic. One of our board members made this statement: we're no longer nice to have, we're essential. And we're absolutely part of the Arlington Senior Safety Net. And we will look at our strategic plan going forward. We've got a growth strategy, and we're going to be an even more important part of that safety net. Waiving our membership fee was absolutely the right thing to do during the pandemic to make sure that we could help people who needed help and had nowhere else to turn. And overall, we have a strategy for continuing to expand our reach and help those at risk in need seniors through our discounted membership program going forward. And again, another partner, the Arlington Food Assistance Center. There's no question that there are certainly people that we're helping with AFAC food deliveries, seniors who can't get out of their apartments, either getting to the South Nelson Street site or to the satellite delivery sites. Bottom line though, and it's so easy to say continuous operation, but that's absolutely true. We have never shut down. We have always been responding to our members' needs, for these past 8 years, but especially the past 2 years, and especially during those first few months of the pandemic. We had volunteers who were willing, with no certainty about what it meant, to provide services to our volunteers who needed to get out of the house and get to a doctor for one reason or another. I note that we have a discounted membership policy. And again, this new policy has been in place for, more than a year, but we adjusted our fees so that they would be even friendlier to folks with lower incomes. So now for people who have an income under $47,000, our membership fee is $100, under $36,000 or thereabouts, it's $50, under $26,000, it's $25. So we worked hard to bring that fee down to where it's affordable for people with lower incomes. And we may find that over the long term, there's more that we can do there, for people with lower incomes and potentially for others within our membership. I've already mentioned the fact that 31% are participating in that discounted membership program. And again, that we've had really strong support in our fundraising efforts and in our campaigns responding to this need. So take a deep breath. What's next? What's next? What's next? We're growing. That number, 293 paying members. That's certainly bigger than it was pre-pandemic, where we were hovering around 210, 220. And that number is itself growing. It's exponentially growing now. I think we brought on 7 new members in the last month. Our board just approved a 5-year strategic plan, and I'm going to show you some details from that in just a minute. Overall, we're expanding services to more seniors from all across the county. I think, it was described in our 2019 all hands as North and South Arlington, but the bottom line is seniors across the county are joining ANV. I've said this before, and I can only underscore it, that our partnerships with other senior serving organizations are strong and growing. Our financial aid fund is strong and growing, and we're looking to diversify our income. As we look at the strategic plan, I've said we rely on donations, grants, and membership fees. Within the donation area, we're starting to spend more time looking at estate planning, for example, as another source of support for ANV long-term. So as I say, we've got a strategic plan coming up. So here's our mission statement from our strategic plan. Over the next 5 years, Arlington Neighborhood Village will become an essential piece of the social safety net for seniors in Arlington, providing volunteer services for older adults from all segments of the community and collaborating with the county and senior serving organizations to make aging in place possible for those who want it. We'll be a trusted source of information and insights relevant to aging in place and Arlington's aging population. It's a pretty big vision. We also have looked at what our values and guiding principles are. And again, I know there are lots of words on this page. This is not the easiest way to read something. We'll be putting it up on our website shortly. But it's guiding principles that have guided us from the very beginning. We've said it a million times. We're neighbors helping neighbors. We strive for excellence. We want to do a great job for everybody. And we want to treat everyone the same. As much as I've emphasized to you in this call, how many people we're helping who have discounted memberships because they're lower income, for the most part, people who are in our financial aid program are known to 2 people in the organization, maybe 3. But once you get into the system, nobody knows if you're a discounted membership versus a person who's paying full freight. It's just not something we advertise or we let people know. We're all the same. We help seniors live well. We are not only helping them with services, but we're also concerned about social isolation and being connected to people, emotional well-being, as well as health, safety, and services. We are getting better. I mean, we always done a good job, but as we grow, we need more policies and procedures, strong management. We need to make sure that we have that diversified funding portfolio to support a growing organization. And we need to continue to work together with all of the other institutions here in Arlington to make a strong environment for our friends and older adults. So what are our goals? One goal is about awareness. People need to know who we are. We still have conversations where someone says, I never heard of you. I didn't know you were there. You mean you can help my mom or you can help me? So we need to do a better job of getting the word out. And one of the things we're doing to do that better job, we have a consultant that we've hired, a contractor, who is looking to refresh our written materials and refresh our website. It's a project that started about 10 days ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and hopes to be done by the end of June, beginning of the summer. So we're going to have new materials, a refreshed website, and a new look and feel, and then we'll, use that as a platform to start a megaphone of awareness. We're continuing to build our membership. We want to make sure it's inclusive and comes from all sectors within Arlington's community. No question about that. That's what we're doing. That happens every single day. We need volunteers. There's no question that we've got to grow our membership and grow our volunteer base at the same time. They go hand in glove. If we don't bring in new volunteers or re-engage our current volunteers who may not be providing services right now, we need to increase the number of volunteers who are doing things, and especially the number of volunteers who are driving our members to appointments. In organizational capacity infrastructure, we've got to improve that. And I've said it, we need to have, we have financial management policies. We've got an expert looking at those policies, and they're actually making some recommendations on how we can strengthen them, because we need to start being prepared for an audit. At some point soon, ANV is actually going to have an audit where an independent CPA comes in and reviews our books and lets us know, whether we're doing things correctly or whether we have weaknesses. So to build that capacity, we need to build our financial aid processes and improve them. We need to have a gift policy. We need to have endowment policies. We need to have HR policies. Whatever you know from a big organization, tiny ANV also needs those policies, and we need to build them over the next couple of years. And overall, we need this funding model. As we grow, we're going to need more resources. We need more volunteer resources. We need more dollar resources. So we need to have a diversified portfolio that brings in those different kinds of resources. And as I've said, legacy planning is one of those resources that we want to become smarter at and do a better job of educating our contact list, our people who care about ANV, about what the opportunities are there. So the strategic plan is what you just saw. It's mission, vision, guiding principles, goals. There are objectives under each of those goals, but I didn't want to put so many words on a slide screen for you. But behind those objectives, we need action plans. So we're, turning our attention to developing those action plans for each goal. We've got the new volunteer coordinator and member services specialist that just came on board in the middle of April. So we need to get them super engaged and productive. I mentioned the fact that we have to have a communications consultant on board who's taking a look at our written materials and website. I talked about the fact that we want to expand our fundraising expertise, and we've got a really vibrant fundraising committee that's helping us to do that, improving our management operations, and expanding our member offerings. We want to do some technology training this year. We've gotten a grant to do that. We've made some investments in it, but are looking to do more from this point forward to the end of the year. And for example, we now have on-site notary. Jean Rede went through the training and is now a notary public. So if anyone needs to have something notarized, they can call the office and we can take care of it for them. But we need to talk about what other kinds of programs and services people want. So as we go through all that, again, the bottom line, what we know, members and volunteers who care deeply about each other. And, these are some wonderful photos of people I think many of us know, folks that we've been helping for a long, long time, and volunteers who have been incredibly engaged in the work that we do. Michael Raisin, who's the second photo here, is the person who's driven more miles than any other volunteer, and is someone that we're always able to count on when we need. He volunteers, but at times when we have an unfilled ride, we're reaching out to someone like Michael or several other volunteers who have said, when you're in a crunch, call me, and we do. So having said all that, I know we've got a couple more questions in the chat. That's really my pitch. I'm probably going to stop sharing so I can see people. But let's see what other questions we have and get some reaction from all of you about what we've been doing. So if I go first to the chat, the question is, what can we do to get more information to people in some of the large apartment and condo units? I absolutely, and Jill made this comment, absolutely agree with her that we need to do a better job of getting into those condos and apartment units. One of the things that the Commission on Aging is talking about, and we agree with, is the idea of senior ambassadors, trying to have a group of volunteers who are knowledgeable about the resources that exist throughout the county. And those senior ambassadors exist in buildings and are sharing information within those buildings about services. Arlington Neighborhood Village would be one of them. So Jill, I completely agree with you about wanting to do this and figure out a way how to do it. But it's definitely on our list. When we talk about making those action plans, this is one of the tasks that is going to be on our action plan to get the message out. But what I can say is for any of you on the call, remember all of our coffee and conversations are open to the public. So if you have any opportunity, we put a flyer on every month. Mary Cusick puts together all of the speakers for the upcoming month, and another volunteer makes that into a flyer. We put that flyer up on the homepage of our website. If anybody wants to go to that flyer, print it out in your own printer at home and then post it. If you're able to post it somewhere in your building, please do that. And just encourage people to join our coffee and conversation, get to know us. And as they listen to us on these coffee and conversations, they'll figure out how to better reach out. That's just a small step, it's a tiny interim step as we get ready to do something more fulsome on a bigger basis.
Yeah, I want to emphasize what Wendy just said, and that is that all of you are ambassadors for us as well. And ANV works because of all the volunteer energy. We have a very small staff really, and they do essential work, but we work because of all the volunteers, and so you all are ambassadors for ANV, and you should be talking to your friends and your neighbors and taking opportunities to help us get people know about us and who we are. So I deputize everybody.
And I will follow up with you, Jill, personally. The other thing, Charles asked whether we have any plans for Spanish language capability. So yes, our original brochure was translated into Spanish. So we do have that available. But again, our brochures are being refreshed in our new communications consultant. So once we have that new brochure, we will absolutely translate it into Spanish. But also, in working with one of the resident services managers in one of the APA housing units, that resident services person volunteered to take our member application and translate it into Spanish for us. And Jean has said yes. And when he said he was willing to do that, she raised her hand and said, please, yes. So while that wasn't something we planned, it did come about. But I agree that, as we talk about doing more for more people from diverse backgrounds, language does become an issue that we've got to manage and deal with. And it's not just our written materials, it's also having volunteers who speak Spanish and are willing to get engaged. How about an ANV attending or presenting at community condos? Absolutely, yes, yes, yes. So if you have in your community, in your building, if you have a condo that gets together, sign me up to talk to them. I did a presentation just last week with Helen King from the County Agency on Aging, and she and I spoke for a little more than an hour to the Williamsburg condominium. They invited us to talk. I think they had about 20 people on the call. That presentation is posted on our YouTube channel. So if somebody asks you, well, we're happy to have them, but what are they going to talk about? You can show them that YouTube video and give them a sense of what we would talk about. It's right up there. But if anybody has the opportunity through either a community association or condo, please call on us. We're also reaching out, and those of you who live in Fairlington may be interested in this, but the Fairlington Presidents Association, I guess these are the presidents of the Fairlington community associations, would like to hear from us. So we're going to be talking to them. Jean's going to be talking to them a little later this month. And hopefully the Fairlington presidents will see there's value in permitting us to do presentations to their individual civic associations. I see Jill sort of looking to unmute herself. Is that what you're trying to do?
There's a question here about particularly difficult transportation challenges of, getting people to doctor's appointments in Maryland and DC and way out in Fairfax County. and they wanted to know, how do other villages in the area handle that sort of thing?
That's an interesting question, and I'm going to give you what I think is a gut reaction and not a factual reaction. But my gut reaction is that we do more than other villages do in this arena. There are some villages that limit the transportation that they offer to within their own service area. So I think, and again, this is gut, not fact, but I think that we do a little bit more. And what I always say to people, and it is the challenge, that we only can do something if a volunteer raises their hand. So that's part of the conversation we have with someone when we're trying to have an intake discussion to make sure that there's a good fit. We don't want someone coming to us who has a regular recurring need that we know volunteers aren't anxious to fulfill. While someone might do it once or twice, they're not going to do it every week. So we try to have that conversation up front so we don't overpromise what we can do. But, for the most part, we are able, we've got one person who wants to get his food from Fairfax, and we've got someone who signs up for that. We've got an eye doctor out in Fairfax that everybody goes to, and we've always got to get them out to that eye doctor. We wish we had a bus and we could get everybody the same appointment on the same day. But we have at times challenging requests, someone who wants a colonoscopy in DC, so it's a 3-hour ride. What we try to do is split that into 2 one-ways to see if we can handle it. So we come up with some crazy solutions, workarounds, but we work at it. And every single ride, if it's an unfilled ride, gets special attention for the 24 hours before it's scheduled to be done. We do, and have some opportunity. One of the things we have in the budget is to do a certain amount of paid rides if we have to. And to tell you the truth, we actually paid for a taxi for someone a week ago. It was a medical appointment. We didn't want them to have to cancel it. They didn't have the money to pay themselves. So we paid for a taxi for somebody. So we're looking at those kinds of solutions when necessary. Jill?
Yes, I was going to ask, do we have anything posted on Next Door Neighbor?
So no and yes. So the answer is no, not right now. Carriage return. We're planning to post on Nextdoor a volunteer. We're looking for volunteer message. We don't do that all the time, but we're going to put a posting up that says, interested in volunteering, reach out to ANV. We post on Nextdoor, and we've got many of them on the call right now, all of our coffee and conversations. So we've got a team of people that'll take the weekly coffee and conversation and put it on Nextdoor as an event so that people can learn about us and join our coffee and conversation. And we also, I think, as many of you know, have a private group on Nextdoor that has about 160 people in it now, but that's really our members and volunteers. And we use that as a communication channel for things that come up that don't make it into the newsletters on the 1st or the 15th. Jill, if you're thinking about other ways to use Nextdoor.
Well, I'm just thinking that asking for volunteers is a great idea, including for the buildings that we've been talking about, of course, because there are young people here as well. But isn't it a good opportunity to also post a very brief, what is ANV? What can it do for you? Or are you looking for this? And, ANV can provide it if you were a member or something like that?
Yeah, I think there is a way to do that, Jill. We have to be careful. I was burned once. So what happens, I think one thing that happens on Nextdoor is that if somebody asks a question on aging, I think I or others oftentimes will provide some insight for that person. Not all the time, but when appropriate. What are the resources out there that they can turn to, or is ANV a resource? I posted a response once on Nextdoor, and I got burned by someone who said we had a membership fee. And, they thought that having a membership fee wasn't the best thing for an organization. that was looking to help older adults. So I think the one thing you have to think about when you post on social media is really look at your message 100 times to make sure that you don't have something that someone's going to find a problem with and bring up a negative aspect, that then that negativity is being shared more broadly than you want. So yes, we want to do more on social media. Actually, the communications consultant that we've hired has a background in social media, so she is going to force us into that world, into the world of, you know, Nextdoor and Facebook, and I don't want to say it, but Instagram. And as much as we laugh and say that, you know, I'm not on any of those things, and I think many of us aren't, younger people are. And younger people who would donate, younger people who would volunteer, younger people who are looking for help for their parents. So as much as I've avoided the social media world up to this point, I know that I'm going to have to be dragged kicking and screaming into it. And that's a good comment, and we need to figure out how to do it well.
Excellent.
If I could add to that. Early on, we did look at being more active on things like Nextdoor, and we avoided it because if you've spent any time there, you can quickly see just how toxic the comments sections can get. And we thought we'd just rather not invite that kind of abuse. But if we've now got a professional that can help us do it right, it might be time to take another look at it.
Mhm. It's good to see Miriam. Miriam, you're in the middle of my screen, so it's wonderful to see you. I know Miriam was on our volunteer committee and responsible for bringing volunteers in for so many years. And Charlie's here from our board, and it's good to see him. Pat Burke is one of our office volunteers that I praise. Elise, our former president, Nancy and Pax. Nancy's a phenomenal volunteer driver who's raising her hand all the time. Pax, who's helping us with our technology. You know, I don't want to say that Barbara's the wife of that phenomenal volunteer, Mike Raisin, but Barbara herself has become a volunteer and is taking people and driving people around the community. Gail has helped us for so many years with our surveys and is going to be doing that again. I'm sort of just clicking forward and just trying to capture. I stole Margie's spinach wall recipe at our last real picnic that we had at Bluemont Park. By the way, we have Bluemont reserved. Again, in September, we're going to do our picnic. We're going to bring back the picnic this coming September and do it then. We've got all the Anns on, Ann Kennison and Ann Thompson and Anna Boyd. It's great seeing Roy Barnes is on. It's wonderful seeing names. You know, so often it's like we only see names and not people and their faces. So it's just good to see everybody. I hope, and mark on your calendars, June 14th, June 14th, June 14th. You know, we're going to do the volunteer recognition. It's going to be in the parking lot of the Church of the Covenant. So lots of parking. It'll be outside, so it'll be COVID safe. We'll have the fellowship hall. We need to go inside for inclement weather. But it's going to just be an open house to stop by. You don't have to worry about being there for an hour or an hour and a half. You can come by for 10 minutes just to show your face, say hello, and let us see you. I can give you a heads up on what we hope to serve. Italian subs from the Italian store, yummy, and an ice cream truck, even yummier. Any other comments or questions while we're all together? Directions you want to give me? Thumbs up for the directions we're going. Thumbs up. You know, I can say Charlie's on the call right now. He's been an advocate for really working to reduce our membership fees. You know, we're hopeful that as we look at our strategic plan and the objectives and the action plans, we can take a hard look at that and we look at other streams of money that are coming in supporting our work. So know that everybody who has talked to me over the last 4 years, everything you've said is in the back of my head, and we're going to pull it forward as soon as we can. Elise?
Sorry, Wendy, we've been at a doctor's appointment, so I'm just getting on late, but I just wanted to congratulate you and Maureen on getting that strategic plan over the goal line and getting the, presenting it to the board and finalizing it. I know that wasn't an easy process, so everyone should recognize this is something we've been wanting to do for many, many years. We got it started last year, and I'm just thrilled to see that it's been finalized, and now the hard work starts. But it's good. It's good to have it. We need it for a lot of our grants and proposals, so it's wonderful to see.
Right.
And I just want to thank Wendy for being just such an incredible leader. We're really lucky.
It's easy to be my job when all of you are doing the hard work. So don't even go there. But I do want to say, while I have all of you on the call, for those of you who are looking for something that you can help with at home, I talked about all these different procedures we have to have. And in some sense, I've got templates from other people. Like I have an HR manual. I'd call it a manual, but I have an HR manual from Silver Spring Village. What I need to do is convert that to be an ANV HR manual. And those changes are simple. Sometimes it's changing the word Silver Spring to Arlington Neighborhood Village. Other times it's taking a look at what it says and saying, yeah, does this work for us? But it's work that somebody can do at home who just wants to sort of take on that task of looking at some other written policy and say, I can make changes to this. I can make a draft for ANV. I can share it with Wendy. It doesn't have any hard deadline that says it's got to be done in the next 2 weeks. So when all of you are sitting there thinking about, the village, how you can help us, I can use that kind of help. Because if someone else is doing it, it means I'm not doing it. So think about that. And if you have that skill set or interest, just send me an email. You know where to reach me.
Great.
Barbara?
I just have another quick question. I feel like, the managers at the top really don't get, as much appreciation as possible. Is there any way that we can show it personally, or, individually?
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know. I just thought, maybe I could bring my massage chair or something, a chair massage on the Volunteer Appreciation Day or something.
Oh, that would be a great idea.
I mean, yeah, I just personally feel like, I can take people for granted who are doing all the grunt work and, especially the managers of
Oh,
and you and me. So
that would be a phenomenal idea. That would be great.
okay, I'll bring it.
So we have one person who sent a note to me saying iPhone to me that they can help. You need to tell me who you are because you're coming across as iPhone, not as a name. So Barbara, I think that's a great idea. And I'd say if there's somebody else, likewise, that has ideas for what we can do on the Volunteer Recognition Day that's fun, and that's a perfect example of a fun thing to do. Just reach out to us because we've got lots of flexibility given that we're in the parking lot at the church.
Sounds good.
Great idea.
All right.
Hello,
Well,
Wendy.
hello, Elaine. I see your notes.
I
Thank you.
was the one, yes. I
Perfect.
can
I'll get
help
back
with
to you.
policies and procedures.
I'll get back to you. Thank you, Elena.
Good.
Anybody else have any questions that they want to cover or comments they want to make?
I think one comment when you were calling out people, somebody mentioned Gene Anderson, who's been, enormously valuable on the Health and Wellness Committee and planning events and just doing all kinds of stuff. So
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure she didn't get left off the list.
No, she hasn't. Jean was the person who helped us when we first started vetting the home care agencies. And she pulled together that 3-pager on the important questions to ask and how to understand how to bring in home care agencies. So, she's been involved in health and wellness in the beginning, and to this day, she's just sent us a long article about how to manage doctor appointments. So absolutely, we are lucky to have expertise in our volunteer pool as well. When I do a presentation, I talk about volunteers can either bring their brains or their brawn. So Jean is one of the ones who's bringing her brains.
Very nice.
Well, overall, so thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for listening. If you didn't make comments today on our call and you still have some information you want to get to me or Maureen, please do. I think you know how to reach out to all of us. We love talking with you. We hope everybody has a great day, and we'll see many of you here again, same time, same channel next week. I think those of you who know Batman can appreciate that comment. Same bat time, same bat channel next Wednesday. All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you. You're always a great presenter, Wendy. Amazing.
Thanks.
Good.
Take care. Have a great day.